All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are still fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to the sincere Akwath, and Shalom to the scattered Israelites who are amongst these heathen nations and look like these heathens. Now, this lesson is going to be based on, Esau's downfall. The nation of Edom, these so-called, self-proclaimed white people. Because if you've been paying attention, you can see that the Lord has these Edomites divided against each other, especially in the midst of this war that's happening between mainly the U.S. and Iran at this point. Israel is still involved, but it's really a back and forth between the U.S. and Iran. And because this was an illegal war to begin with, a lot of these other countries, Edomite ruled countries, they're not, vibing with America right now, or the U.S., I should say, because of all this chaos that has resulted, all the economic disruptions that have happened as a result of this war. And the fact that Trump has just been as disrespectful as he can be towards, these other countries' leaders, calling them cowards, calling them weak, all of these things, putting tariffs on them. Here it is, these other nations, or these other countries rather, they are the US's allies, and yet Trump is treating them like their enemies. And then he wonders why nobody wants to help him, fight this war that he started. So, yeah, the house of Esau is divided, and they're gonna fall as a result of that. So Luke 12:51. Suppose ye that have come to give peace on earth, I tell you no, but rather division. And we can clearly see that amongst these Edomites. You have the Edomites here in the U.S. who are either Democrat or Republican or something else. They're all divided against each other for many reasons. You have the Edomites who love Trump. You have the Edomites who hate his guts. You have the Edomites who have no problem with other races of people being here. Then you have the Edomites who just think that that the U.S. should just be all so-called white people, and that all brown-skinned people should not be allowed to be here. There's so much division amongst these Edomites, and because they're so divided, Salakia, because they're so divided against each other, nothing either side wants ever works, because nobody can get on the same page. So they're constantly clashing with each other. And then, the files, the epi files, that caused a lot of, issues amongst these Edomites as well. Because for the Edomites who love Trump, he's all up in those files, So basically, those people who are protecting him and still supporting him, they support all the wicked things that he has done. And then you have the Edomites on the other side who are like, that's disgusting. Like, how could you do that? So it's a lot of division and conflict, and hostility amongst these Edomites. Like Elder Malcolm loves to say, even the Edomite woman, the so-called white woman, she's turning against Esau. She's turning against her man. So basically, the things that Esau did to our people, turning the woman against the man, dividing our household, you know, that's basically what the Lord is causing to happen to them. These Edomite women, they're leaving the Edomite man and they're going, to whatever brown skinned man they want, whether it's a so called black man, his so called Hispanic man, so called Asian man, whoever. They're just going elsewhere. They don't want to deal with the so called white man anymore because being around him causes nothing but trouble. you know? And that does not mean that these Edomite women are exempt from the role that they've played in the oppression of our people. Because these Edomite women, they're, just as guilty. Just because now all of a sudden they want to step away because things are getting too hot for them. It's like, nah, you're not exempt from the judgment that the Lord is going to bring upon your people. But yeah, this is a very beautiful thing to behold. Watching these Edomites clash with each other and ultimately they're going to go to war against each other. Mark 3:23. And he called them unto him and said unto them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? 24. And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And the U.S. is divided against itself. You have people on the left, you have people on the right, you have people who, just don't want to be a part of either side. So, many years ago, somebody actually had said, this is not the United States of America, this is the divided states, because, you have the people who are, I believe the Republicans are the red and the Democrats are the blue, so it's like you have one side against another. So this place, this kingdom, this wicked kingdom is very much divided. People are definitely not on the same page, on the same side, have the same mindset, Verse 25, and if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And this is the house of Esau. These so-called white people, they are divided. Whether it's the American Edomite against the Canadian Edomite, or, the American Edomite against the Edomite in the UK or Germany or France or wherever these Edomites are, they're all divided. And that's part of why they're falling. Because when they were together, they were a lot stronger. Everybody had the same objective. Everybody was on the same page, But once that division starts happening, once those cracks start to form, then it becomes a problem. And that's the same thing that happened with us, the Israelites. The northern and the southern kingdom. When we're together, nobody can stand against us. But when the Lord divided us, we fell. And that was due to our own wickedness. That was a punishment for us being wicked and angering the Lord. But now the Lord is bringing us back together while he's dividing these Edomites. Verse 26, and if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand, but hath an end. And that's the story of these Edomites. They're rising up against themselves. They're divided against themselves. So there is no other option except for them to have an end, for them to fall. I have this AI overview of Salakia, of a house divided cannot stand. And it says a house divided against itself cannot stand is a proverb meaning that internal conflict and disunity cause institutions, nations, or families to fail. And that's exactly what's happening. Salakia. That's exactly what's happening to these Edomites. They have so much internal conflict. The Edomite man versus the Edomite woman. You know, the Edomites in the US against the Edomites in the UK or in Italy, Germany, France, Canada, wherever. There's so much division. They're not on the same page. The left hand is fighting against the right hand, and it's going to cause them to fall. It's going to cause them to fall. It's going to cause all their plans to fail. And this is the work of the Lord. The Lord is the one that's splitting them up. He's the one that's dividing them. He's the one that's putting the spirit on, in this particular case, Trump, to just be an arrogant POS that nobody wants to deal with. Nobody wants to be around him. Nobody wants to associate with him. These Edomites, they're so fed up with him. They're so tired of him. Salakia, let me pause this for 1 second. Yeah, Salakia. But like I said, nobody wants to be around Trump. Nobody wants to deal with that man. He's crazy. And it seems like the Lord is going to use him to drag the U.S. into the Third World War and put the final nail in America's coffin. That's how it's looking. Because look at all the things that he's doing. Every move he makes is the wrong move. It just causes chaos and it hurts everybody. He was never fit to rule, but fit to cause division and seemingly lead to the destruction of the U.S. Yeah, seems like he's very fit to do that. Ecclesiasticus 25:7. There be 9 things which I have judged in mine heart to be happy, and the 10th I will utter with my tongue. A man that have joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. And that's the time that we're in. We're watching the fall of our enemy. We're watching these Edomites become more and more divided against each other and become more hostile to each other and aggressive towards each other. And it's ultimately going to result in their fall. And not just the Edomites here in the U.S., but these Edomites everywhere in the world. They're all going to fall. And once they finally fall, they're never going to rise again. That's it. That's game over. They're going into captivity under us, the Israelites, for 1,000 years. And then the entire Salakia. And then the entire nation of Edom, all of these so-called white people, and the ones that actually are Edomites, because as we know, there are Israelites and even these other heathens who are scattered amongst them. So there are people out here who may look like an Edomite, but they're not an Edomite. So the Lord, he's going to remove the people who are not an Edomite, who just happen to look like Edomites. He's going to move them. He's going to sift them from the actual Edomites. And then, like I said, after 1,000 years of the most hardcore, brutal slavery that any nation has endured, these Edomites, they're going to be rounded up and they're going to be wiped off the face of the earth. That is their judgment. The nation of Edom is the only nation that has not been granted any form of repentance. They are the wicked that the scriptures speak of. Like, look at everything that these Edomites have done to the world. They've basically destroyed the world. They've destroyed the people. They've caused entire species of animals to go extinct. You know, they've caused entire species of insects to go extinct. You know, they destroy the land, they destroy the air, they destroy the water, they poison the food, they just destroy everything because they are the wicked. Like it says in Job 9:24, the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. These Edomites, they run the show, so to speak, right now. So when the Lord comes back, he's coming back to a world that's ruled by the wicked, by these Edomites, by these so-called self-proclaimed white people. And he's going to destroy them. And he's going to destroy all of their kingdoms. There's not going to be anything left of these Edomites. And that's a beautiful thing to think about, and a beautiful thing to behold. Just watching our enemy, our chief enemy, these Edomites, the so-called white man, white woman, and their children, all of them just falling, all of them crashing out, clashing against each other, fighting each other, threatening each other. It's a beautiful thing to see your enemies become enemies of themselves. And this is all the work of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. So for all you sincere brothers and sisters out there, keep your head up. Don't be out here all sad and depressed. We are in the most beautiful times. We're in the last days. Our captivity, our oppression, our punishment is almost over. We're going to be ruling forever. And we're going to have slaves. And, everything's going to be the way that it was always supposed to be. As soon as the Lord brings down these devils, destroys America, and establishes the kingdom of heaven. Because we're not living here. The way things are right now, this is not living. We want life. We want to live. We want to experience life. This is not it. This is the farthest thing from it, to be honest. The only thing that gives us some type of life and rejuvenates us is these scriptures, is this truth. Outside of that, there is nothing. It's just wickedness. We want to live in a world that's righteous. And the Lord is going to bring us that. He's going to give us that. But in order for that to happen, this world, this wicked system has to be wiped out. And the people who built this wicked system have to be wiped out. And that is primarily these Edomites, these so-called self-proclaimed white people. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash, the water Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, for putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to our brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to all the sincere Akwath, the sincere sisters. And shalom to all the scattered Israelites who are amongst these heathen nations and now look like these heathens. I hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up, and Adawan Rataza. Till next time, Shalom.